Pretty, pretty, pretty squares. I should probably count them all up. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Monday live stream in which we dive into the fun of turning a little sampler into a really usable granny square, or a granny style square, a fair isle, from fair isle style to granny style. Welcome everybody, happy Monday. It is the Jayda InStitches show live at the craft table. Mr. InStitches is also here, and yes, we were sorting out some squirrel tech.
Hello everyone, I hope I've got my microphone set properly today.
Yes.
Let me know, please.
And with that, we're going to jump right in. As many of you know, hopefully all of you by now, we are 6 months into our 2023 calendar blanket project. We are making the Fair Isle style calendar blanket, so that is graph work. And as such, I've been telling everybody to make lots of samplers. So if you're making the whole blanket, I recommend making a sampler. If you are not making the whole blanket, I recommend making the samplers, because this is great fun. And it's a great way to practice graph work. It's also a neat way to experiment with color. Anyway, what do you do with all these samplers? Well, originally I had said I was going to probably make a scarf, or I don't know. I had a couple of ideas at the beginning of the year. I didn't really know just how crazy it was going to get with the samplers. I have 42 in front of me at the moment. They're all kind of piled 3 and 4 deep in their little piles here. I've got 42 squares. They are just keep coming and coming, because I have 100 million ideas, and in addition to all of the patterns for the next 6, so we had 12 patterns or 12 graphs situated or decided upon for this year, and there are other ideas that we were going to do. They were sort of like runner-up ideas that we've decided to make the plus patterns, which are usually available in our Etsy shop. And if you're a Silk or Vicuña member, we've been getting some of those to you as sort of part of your perks over on the membership page of our website. We do have another one coming this month for you guys, but it's still a surprise. And on top of that, of course, our crafty community is amazing. And you guys regularly have other suggestions for things like, what's this one over here? The graduation cap. That was an idea because a lot of you have people graduating this year. So we've got a whole bunch of extra ones that are from other people's ideas, just because they're following along and they'd like sort of the opportunity to add something a little more personable to their blanket. So as a result, this is what I'm trying to get to. I have 1 billion of these samplers and so many more to come. So instead of making a scarf, I'm definitely going to be making a bigger project, or possibly multiple projects. So in addition to all these pretty squares, I just love this one. I think I'm going to play with this one today. I've got some that you're going to recognize. I've got, oh my gosh, so many. Anyway, I've got an absolute pile of, I might do that one today too. I like these. I've got the little paw print. I've got our houses. I've got more flowers. We've got the diamonds. I did several versions of that. I'm just going to put that to the side. We've got our march, our birthday cake, hearts. I've got so many of these things. So I'm just going to get them all kind of piled up and put out of the way. And let's get focused. So I started with one of my bunnies. So we have a Fair Isle style plus that is an Easter bunny, or just a bunny head. I really like this. We've got 2 styles of the bunny. And I've decided that I'm going to probably turn all of my samplers into a blanket. And it's at this point, it's looking like it might be a pretty decent sized blanket. And in order to do that, I wanted to unify them all, because they are just colors of all over the place. Some of them are green, some of them are crazy colored, some of them are like, I've got colors of all kinds happening here. So how to unify them all? Well, you've probably heard me say over the years, if you've watched our show, if you're going to put together a bunch of squares, all you need to do is really unify them with something. And you can unify them by adding a border, or you can unify them by joining them all together with the same yarn color. I've decided I'm going to add a same colored border to them all. And in order to turn our samplers into squares, or really any sampler, I thought we would talk a little bit about how you can do that, how you can figure it out for yourself if you've got sort of samples of things, like let's say you're making different stitch samplers because you're trying out different crochet stitch patterns. You want to, if you've got an idea in the back of your head to turn your samplers into an overall larger project down the road, then you want to try and aim to have your samplers all the same size. So for example, if you were working on different stitch samplers like our Victorian stitch sampler, or maybe you were playing with the MMA, our Mighty Mile a Minute calendar blanket samplers, what you'd want to do is try to make them all the same number of rows and maybe all the same number of stitches. So like our samplers for our Fair Isle style calendar blanket are 11 rows high and they're 20 stitches across, because that's the graph. The graph is 11 rows by 20 stitches. So because we use the double crochet stitch, if you were to kind of extrapolate out to give it a regular border of say single crochet, you'd have 20 stitches across the top, 20 stitches across the bottom, but because a double crochet is usually about 2 single crochet stitches tall, because we have 11 rows, you'd end up with 22 stitches along the side. When you're adding a border to a sampler, you want to cheat. You want to cheat. So today I'm going to talk about how to create a base row if you need to, or just jump right into the border like I did with this little bunny, and cheat across your stitches to get it to be perfect. So typically one of these samplers is about 6.5 inches tall, about 6 inches wide, but I've added a classic granny shell stitch pattern. I've got 7 shells running across all 4 sides, so it's perfectly even, and that has turned my slightly off square into a perfect square. So this is now 7 inches by 7 inches. Before I go on, I want to acknowledge Nico. I saw that she gifted a membership there earlier. I want to thank Nico for gifting a membership. I know I've been talking a lot. I'm very excited about this. So Mr. Stitches, if you've got anything you want to jump in with and add, I'm going to have a sip of water here.
Make sure my mic volume is okay because I've raised it. And also, we need to shout out Nico for the membership gift. Big thank you to Nico.
Thank you, Nico.
He, who's a member, says live water bottle bags for a live stream, so that's a suggestion.
Oh, I like that.
Dawn, 2 Dawns, 1 Dawn, welcome to Alpaca, or actually that's a renewal. Thank you for renewing your membership.
Welcome back, Dawn. Thank you.
And a big thank you to the other Dawn, who has been a Vicuña member for 56 months.
Wow, thank you, Dawn.
And says, these blocks are so cute. Hope you're having a wonderful summer.
Yay! Thank
Now,
you, Dawn.
like, for some reason, no one can hear me. And my microphone, everything on my end is a go. So I don't know what's going on with my mic.
Okay, so we can't hear Mr. Stitches because there always has to be something.
Kind of everything I just
Yeah, so I just want to...
I'm going to see if I can...
Mr. Stitches is busy trying to thank everybody. Thank Nico for the gifting the membership. Re-welcoming Dawn back. Thank you for re-upping your membership. And also Dawn Tennyson, who's been a Vicuña member for 56 months. Holy cow. A big thank you. She says, I love these squares and hopes we're having a good summer. I hope everybody's having a good summer or a good winter, depending on what part of the planet you're on. And I agree. These are just so darn cute. The Mister has a microphone, and last live stream, or a couple live streams ago, he was really, really loud, and we were trying to fiddle with sort of the sound settings. So we thought we kind of had that worked out, and apparently we don't. So who knows? But at least you can hear me. That's the important part. Haha, Mr. Stitches.
I made another switch here out of the 8 million settings I have. So do I still sound like I'm deep in a well? Please let me know.
And here we go. In order to add a border to a sampler, first you want to know what kind of stitches you're working with. So you want to take a close look at how many stitches you have across the top and the bottom. They should be the same. So for us, it's 20 stitches. So I've got 20 stitches across the top. I've got 20 bottoms of stitches or foundation chains across the bottom. So 20 and 20. I used the double crochet stitch for this graph, as we all are, and because it's 11 rows high, that basically translates to the base of 22 stitches. So I like to think of my base stitch as a single crochet. So when I'm thinking borders, I think two things. One, do I need a foundation row? Typically, I like to go with a single crochet. Or two, can I jump right into a fancy border stitch? In this case, we can go straight into a fancy border stitch because I worked out how to get a granny shell stitch pattern to work on this square. And I love it. It squares it up beautifully. Now, of course, you can easily join your squares together. You can turn them into different projects. If you weren't turning them into a blanket and you're making, say, cotton dishcloths, like a lot of folks are with the sample squares, now you can add a really cute little shell stitch border to it. It just finishes it off that much nicer. I mean, on its own, it's even cute, but there's just something about putting a border on. I love it. Anyway, I've opted to use my sage green. A lot of you who did the Tunisian calendar blanket along with this will recognize this gigantic ball of yarn that never seems to get any smaller. It's like a silvery green or a sage color. I absolutely love it. I have a ton of it, and it's kind of a neutral. So I'm going to do every single one of my Fair Isle style sampler squares in this. That will unify all my squares. And if I decide to put them all together into a blanket, which is looking like that's what's going to happen, I've already unified the squares. So it doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter if they're a little bit big or a little bit small. This will be the unifying factor in all my squares. So I've established that I don't need a row of single crochet. If you had started to, border up your squares, maybe you were putting in a row of single crochet, great, keep at it. What you want to go with though, for adding on a border is some kind of evenness. So if, for example, our squares were 10 rows high by 20 stitches across, then you'd already have a 20 stitch by 20 stitch potential without having to do any cheating. So, and by that I mean a double crochet is worth 2 single crochet. Or if you're thinking of how it's anchored, you can anchor your stitches in the top of a regular stitch. And if you're anchoring your stitches along the side, a double crochet is about double the height of a single crochet.
I'm just going to holler at you from the left.
Oh, sure.
We got a membership milestone.
Membership milestone. Oh, Steve, Uncle Steve, a member for 30 months at Vicuña. Thank you very much, Steve. Says, good day, getting caught up. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Now, I think Uncle Steve has been making samplers, and I think I saw Uncle Steve actually put a border on one of his samplers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember that. And Uncle Steve has also gifted a membership. Thank you so much. And Sylvia has won it. Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Okay, I'm using my same hook that I made to use my samplers with. So that's also important. When you're adding a border to your sampler, make sure that you're using the same hook and try to use the same yarn. I've been using a medium size 4 weight yarn the whole way through. All of mine tends to be acrylic. I say tends to because I have used some wool and some wool blends and some cotton blends because, once again, these are samplers, but also this is going to be a blanket for me, so I know how to treat it. I'm not too worried about airing on a washing machine day and having something go wrong. But I do recommend that people try to keep the same fiber and the same weight category going. So I'm going to use this lovely green. It's sort of functions like even a neutralish color. It's going to work out with all of the colors I've chosen, even if they don't quite look like it does, because that's what the unifying factor of the blanket's going to be. It's going to look like one of those pretty hippie kind of crazy colored granny square blankets when it's all done. At least that is what I think is going to happen. So here we go. I've got 20 stitches by 11 rows, and I want to make it square. I have created a border here that is 7 shells by 7 shells by 7 shells by 7 shells. It's your classic granny shell stitch. So 3 double crochet equals 1 shell. I've got the chain 2 in the corner to create the corner space. I am not chaining 1 in between my shells. So I have done away with that. Why? Because it just works out better that way. I don't need the spacer. So it's just 3 double crochet into the same place and then 3 double crochet into the same place. I am not chaining 1 in between, but there is a little bit of cheating going on in the counts, and I'll explain that. Here we go. I'm going to use my pretty little flower I'm joining my yarn. Now you can use the slip stitch chain 3 for the double crochet, or you can join with a double crochet. I think I might join with a double crochet today. So yarn over. This is the standing double crochet. I'm starting in the top of what was the chain 3 that began the last row of my sampler. So this is the chain 3 that began the row. I'm just going to find the top of it, join my hook in the top of that chain 3, and I'm joining with a double crochet. You can join with a slip stitch chain 3 if you want. Doesn't matter. It works out to be the same no matter what.
Membership milestone.
A membership milestone from Katie. Hey Katie. Katie's been a member at the silk level for 37 months. Thank you, darling. Morning bosses. Hey girl. Hope all's well. Please crochet for me. My hands gave out at 3 a.m. What were you doing up at 3 a.m. crocheting, you? I've got a low-grade fever. I can't crochet. Why? Stupid flu. I agree. Stupid flu. Just relax. Have a nice cool glass of water. Cross your legs. Rest your arms and watch me try to put a border in one go on this square. Sometimes not crocheting and watching is something I like to do, especially if I'm resting my hands. So I hope you rest your hands too. And anybody else out there who's feeling a little low in the crojo department, or just a little bit under the weather, or possibly even in some kind of recovery, let me be your hands today. So it's just as good sometimes to watch as it is to do, because our brains learn both ways. I have joined with a double crochet in the top of that chain 3 that began the row. So that's technically the first stitch of the last row of my square. I'm going to finish off that shell with 2 more double crochets. This is your classic granny shell stitch border. Absolutely love this so much. Now I'm going to continue with the corner. This is something I like to do when I'm making a regular granny square. I'm going to do the same thing here. So chain 2 for the corner. That creates a nice right angle. Into the top of that same chain 3, I'm going to work 3 more double crochets. It's a little tight, so bear with me. Now, did I put that in the right place? 1, 2, you know what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep, I did. 3 double crochet in the same place. It is always good to count. I want to make sure that I'm using all of my stitch tops, or I'm including them in my counts. So there is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, worked into the top of that chain 3 that began the last row of my graph square. Okay, done. I am not chaining 1 in between my shells. I do not need that spacer. I actually want my shells to be a little more tight together because it makes the spaces in between smaller, and I feel like that also aesthetically goes with the solid double crochet pattern that is used in the graph work. So to begin, I'm going to skip the first 3 stitches. So I'm looking at my chain 3. Sometimes it's easier to count the physical post of the stitch. 1, 2, 3. I'm skipping 1, 2, 3 stitches. Into the next stitch, I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So that is the trick of making everything even. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we go. So there's 3 double crochet. I've skipped the first 3 stitches in that row and worked into the next stitch. From here on out across, I'm only going to skip 2 stitches, skip, skip, 3 double crochet into the next stitch.
Membership milestone.
A membership milestone. Let me just back up the chat here. Dawn! Dawn, a member for 29 months at Alpaca. Thank you so much, Dawn. Hope you are both well and love the granny squares. Well, thank you, Dawn. I love granny squares. I could make them forever. They are so much fun. So 3 double crochet, not chaining 1, skip 2, 3 double crochet into the next stitch. So this is how I'm going to get 7 shells worked across the top of 20 double crochet stitches. Skip 2, 3 more double crochet in the next stitch. And that will allow me to evenly work 7 shells down and up the raw sides, what I call the raw side of the work over here, the sides of the double crochet stitches. Skip 2, 3 more double crochet. So I'm not chaining one in between. If you discount that first shell, which is actually the last shell of this side, so I'm going to just cover that with my thumb. I've got 6 shells so far worked across the top of that row. Now I skip the last 2, and into the top of the very last stitch I work shell, chain 2, shell, because this is where I finish the last shell. Now I chain 2 for the corner, and I start the first shell of the next side. So I'm just going to work shell, chain 2, shell, or 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and here we go.
Membership milestone.
A membership milestone from Joy, a Vicuña member for 29 months. Thank you so much, Joy. I'm enjoying resting my hands while watching you get these amazing squares bordered. It's good to rest. Sometimes it's just good to watch somebody else do it. Joy, I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much. And a membership gift from Crocus Connections. Thank you so much. Gifted a membership. Charlie has won it. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We've got 7 shells now, or 21 double crochet broken up into the shell stitch running across the top of our little sample square. Now we're going to turn and work sideways. I've got the first shell working down the side, and because I have 11 rows, this is why this works out nicely. I'm going to skip the first row and put a shell in the edge of the next row. Skip a row, shell, skip a row, shell, skip a row, shell, skip a row, shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then shell, chain 2, shell into the bottom of the first stitch over here. I'll get to that. But that will give me 7 shells down the side, and it's easy to see the spacing. Again, I'm not chaining one in between shells. Skip that first row end, which was row 11, at the end of row 10, right around that double crochet. I'm going to work 3 double crochets. I'm not splitting the stitch. I'm just working right around it. Not chaining one. Skip the next row edge. Here's the next row, so that would have been row 9. Find row 8, double crochet 3 times into the edge of that row. Not chaining one. Skip row 7. This is row 6. 3 double crochet into the edge of row 6. That's row 5, skipping it, end of row 4, 3 double crochet into the end of row 4. Skip row 3, edge of row 2, 3 double crochet into the edge of row 2. And now I'm skipping row 1, that's row 1. I'm finding the very bottom of that first stitch, which is a foundation chain. I'm going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochet all into the same place, and that becomes corner number 3. All right, let's take it out. And there we go. I've got 7 shells evenly spaced across the side of my square. Pull out my corners. I've got 7 shells evenly spaced across the top, the side, and now I'm going to do exactly the same thing across the bottom to mirror the top. So remember, we had a little skip 3 cheat over here. This is just what makes it evens, and then it's skip 2, skip 2, skip 2, skip 2. I'm going to repeat a mirror image what I did here down here. So instead of starting this row with a skip 3, I want to skip 2 because I want my shells to align. So I'll skip 2, work a shell, skip 2, work a shell, skip 2, work a shell, etc. The last one will be skip 3, and then it'll be 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into the bottom foundation chain of this last stitch or first stitch of this row over here. So let's do that. So that's shell number 1 is part of the corner. I'm going to skip only 2, so this stitch is already used right here. I'm going to skip these 2, find the bottom of that or the foundation chain that sits underneath the 3rd stitch and work 3 double crochet into that. Again, I'm not chaining in between my shells. This is going to make a denser stitch. skipping 2, working 3 double crochet into the foundation chain underneath that next stitch. Skipping 2, 3 double crochet into the next foundation chain. Skipping 2, 3 double crochet. Skipping 2, 3 double crochet. This will be shell number 6, and now I know that I'm skipping 3 or just jumping to the end. So I'm going to find the bottom of that first stitch, find that bottom foundation chain. I want to make sure I'm getting 2 parts of it. There we go. That feels like a nice place to anchor my hook. And then I'm going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2 for the corner, and 3 double crochet all into that same foundation chain, and that starts me up my final side. Let's recap. Okay. Ho, 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 ho. Just like any other granny square, I like to kind of flatten, pull out my corners as I go. I've got 7 shells, a corner, 7 shells, a corner, 7 shells, a corner, and now I've got 2 shells. There's the last one and the first one of my last side. I'm going to mirror what I did over here. So I'm skipping row 1. It's the even rows that get the shell stitch. So row 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. That's 5 plus the 2 from the corners. That's 7. It works out perfectly. So I'm skipping that row. If I'm ever in doubt, I just look across to see, oh, there's the shell. So this is the row edge I want to work the next one on. When you're working a border on a sampler or adding a border to something like this, one of the things that makes a border look good or work is not just keeping stitch count in mind. You want all of your edges to be the same, even. You also want to make sure that they're mirror image of each other. So for example, if I was putting the shells in the wrong place, it would make the whole thing look crooked. It wouldn't even want to sit square. So if you figure out the top and you figure out the first side, make the bottom and the other side a mirror image of what it's facing. And then you've got a square, because that's basically what a square is. Skipping a row, working 3 double crochet around the next row edge.
Membership milestone.
A membership milestone from Melissa. Melissa, a member for 2 months at Silk. Thank you, Melissa. These are just lovely. Is it possible to do the squares in single crochet, and how would it work? Just 2 rows for each double row. Yes. So if you are going to do the graph work and you want to use single crochet instead of double crochet, each row of the graph is, you have to do, instead of doing it once in double crochet, you would have to repeat each row twice in single crochet, so making it identical. Now that's going to make some of your color work do this a little bit, because you're working backwards and forwards, and your stitches will not perfectly align, so there'll be a little bit of wiggling. But if you do them all the same, that little wiggle will look like part of the pattern, so it won't be weird. But I'm just warning you up front that you might get your first 2 rows and go, oh no, it's not identical. But yes, you would work each row of our Fair Isle style graphs in twice in single crochet. So once in double crochet or twice each in single crochet. And if you do, please send us pictures at our Etsy shop. I would love to see it, and we'd love to share it with the whole community.
We have another membership milestone and a gifted membership.
Sakura Sue, thank you. A member for 46 months, popping in to say hello. And I got catching up here. Nico, thank you, has gifted another membership, and Sarah has won it. Thank you so much, and welcome, Sarah. Skip the next row, work a double crochet, 3 of them, into the next row edge. I love this. This is my new obsession. So Mr. InStitches has had a poll going. He wanted to know how much crochet do you do in the summer months? Do you do a lot, a little? Do you work on just your whips? Do you go crazy? There's a poll up top, so feel free to vote because we are curious to know what kind of crochet time do you allot for the summer months. I love to just think of, you know, the summer days are longer. That means there's more daylight hours for crochet. And sometimes it's hot. Maybe I don't really feel like working on something heavy and warm, but then we have an overcast, kind of cool, rainy day like today. And all I can think about is crochet. Once you work your last 3 double crochet or your last shell, you're just going to join with a slip stitch to the top of either the standing double crochet that you started with or the top of the chain 3, doesn't matter. Fasten off and weave in your tails, which is what I'm about to do. We have another gifted membership. Lucy has gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Lucy. And Kathy Smith has won it. Thank you and congratulations. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I've got 2 tails to weave in, so I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to just thread up my yarn needle and weave in those tails, and then I'm going to gloat because this is an important part of the crochet process. When you finish something, gloat. Teddy, a member for 49 months at Silk. Thank you so much, Teddy. Teddy has popped in with a membership milestone. Glad you guys could all make it today. It has been a busy summer so far. Lots going on. Everybody's got so much going on in their lives. I'm just so grateful that so many of you can visit with us during our live streams. If you missed it, on Friday we did an introduction to doilies. Kiwez, one of our longtime members, was sort of saying the other day how much she loves doily stuff and was hoping that we could get some in, and I told her we did have some doily stuff planned for the summer. We have more doily stuff coming, so if you love the lace weight or even just looking at the process, I love to just look at that stuff sometimes.
Did you see Lucy's membership gift?
I did.
And what about Teddy with the milestone?
I did. I got that too.
Okay.
I know you're busy typing. You can't.
One of our viewers mentioned our Granny Square game app isn't working, so I'm gonna check on that. See if I can figure it out.
Sure. Yes, Mr. InStitches is going to check on the Granny Square game app. We do have that available. It should still be up and running. He's going to give it a look-see. I'm just weaving in my tails. I love the doily stuff. So as I was saying, we're going to be doing more doily stuff. It is something that if you're a bit intimidated by the small hooks and the lace weight, we're going to address that as we move through this little introduction to doily series together. I was very intimidated by that whole scene for a long time. I think possibly I still am, but maybe for different reasons now. So I'm very excited to be able to do some doily related projects with everybody that don't feel taxing and don't feel overwhelming or intimidating. And I have to say, it is fun to work on those really tall stitches and not be fumbling with yarn and hooks like you are when you use like the bigger yarn weights. I think I'm going to trim the rest of that little tail. There we go. Okay, and that, so now when I go to join all of my squares together, I have an even number of stitches along each side. Now, of course, all of my squares in this case are a graph, they're a picture. So I would be using them sort of upright anyway. They would all be sort of facing, and they'd all be basically, they all have an up, down, left, right size. So it's not as important for these particular samplers that they are absolutely identical on both sides. Like they could all be a little on the rectangular side if they wanted to, just because they're all going to be, you know, they all have an upright position. But you know, the idea here is that if I wanted to, I could join them together sideways or upside down or something, because the important thing was making them all have the exact same number of stitches or stitch pattern along each side. So as you can see, this one is a little bit bigger than this one because I crocheted this a little tighter. So when I go to join all my squares together, these will actually size to be just perfect with each other. And this I could also block. I could block it to loosen up some of my stitches. I actually held 2 strands of the same yarn together in order to get the white background, because I was using a thinner wool acrylic based yarn that was like a size 2, size 3 weight-ish. So I used 2 strands held together to kind of size it up to get to that size 4 weight that I wanted. And as a result, it's a little bit on the smaller side because my tension was a bit tighter. But it will size up to meet its neighbor. Not a big deal. This is another reason why stitch count and row count is important. I'm going to do another one. So I've got my bunny. I've got my little flower. I think I'm going to do the tulip. No, I'm going to do my little cottage. Yeah, I'm going to do the cottage next. Okay. So that's 2. I'm going to grab my yarn and I'm going to do a 3rd one. So I'm going to find the top of the chain 3 that began the last row of my sampler square. I'm going to join with a standing double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and find the top of that chain 3 and join the top of it nice and tight there. And standing double crochet. There we go. I'm going to finish that shell with 2 more double crochet. Chain 2 for the corner and 3 more double crochet all in the same place, and that is the first corner complete. And then I'm going to quickly go through the counts just so we're all on the same page. There's a little bit of cheating here that allows me to get 7 evenly spaced shells across each side. I'm going to skip the first 3 stitches, or the next 3 stitches, and work 3 double crochet into the next stitch. No chains in between shells, just 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet all the way across. Now I'm skipping only 2 stitches and 3 double crochet into the next stitch. Skip 2, 3 double crochet. Skip 2, 3 double crochet. Skip 2, 3 double crochet, skip 2, 3 double crochet, and then after this little shell, I'm all the way across. That's 6 shells across so far. So I skip 2 and 3 double crochet into the final stitch, and I'm already into a corner. So 3 double crochet, chain 2 for the corner, and 3 double crochet in the same stitch. And now I'm working down the side. And it's pretty much a lot easier from here on out. I feel like I don't have to pay as much attention to the counting. It's just that first skip 3, 3 double crochet, and then it's skip 2, 3 double crochet, skip 2, 3 double crochet for the rest of that top. And now I'm looking for the even row. So I skip row 11, I work 3 double crochet into the end of row 10. Skip row 9, 3 double crochet into the edge of row 8. Joanna with membership of 18 months at Alpaca. Thank you, Joanna. Jayda, have you done a doily in a placemat size? I have not. Well, gee, technically I guess I have. I've done doilies in placemat size using size 4 weight yarn. But I have not made a doily with a size like a 0 weight yarn or a lace weight thread and a small hook yet. But I do, I've been working on a pattern with all of the doily lovers out there in mind. I've been working on a pattern for a placemat sized or at least a larger than a dinner plate sized doily. And I hope to have that tutorial ready for you guys soon. Mr. InStitches has been helping me with good camera angles because when you're working small, you need to be a little bit closer to the camera, but you don't want to be too close and therefore blurry. So hopefully that's coming soon because it's a nice summer project. And I'm really digging the whole doily thing. So more doily stuff to come. Okay, there is 6 evenly spaced shells so far. There's the one that was part of the corner up here. And then every other row edge, the even row edges, 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2, all get 3 double crochets worked into the end of them. Again, no chaining in between shells. Now I skip row 1. I'm looking for the bottom of that first stitch or the foundation chain, and I'm going to work 3 double crochet into it. That is the last shell for the first side. And now I'm into a corner. Chain 2 and 3 double crochet into the same place. That becomes the first shell across the bottom. And now, because it's a border, because we're looking for evenness, I am going to make sure that I mirror the shells as I go. So instead of, this would be the skip 3 stitches over here. I am only skipping 2 because I want to mirror my shell work from the top. So first shell, I only skip the next 2 stitches. Here they are here. And then it's 3 double crochet into the bottom of the next stitch or the foundation chain that sits there, and then skip 2, 3 double crochet, skip 2, 3 double crochet. And if I get lost or I'm confused, I just look straight up to make sure that it's going to be in alignment because I want it all to be even. Lucy's been a member for 4 months at Silk. Thank you, Lucy. I'm working on the other end of the scale. I've got some jumbo yarn in a mystery bag. Woo, I love mysteries. And I'm having to use a 20mm hook. I'm making an HDC cowl, a half double crochet cowl. Woo!
I thought I would try another test on my mic. I am consistently playing with settings here. Let me know if you can hear me or if I still sound like I'm in the well.
I love the jumbo yarn. I am also a lover of extreme, so I love working mini if I can, and I love working macro if I can, as I think things that are intentionally miniature and things that are intentionally like massive are just so much fun. So
I think I fixed the mic issue.
No.
Woohoo! Everyone can hear me. Maybe I'm a bit loud. I'll turn it down. How's that volume?
Mr. InStitches has a booming voice.
Me, 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 me.
All right, that's 6 evenly spaced across the bottom.
Yes, a bit loud. Okay, I will turn it down a bit more. How's that volume? Testing, testing. Yarn, yarn, crochet. Yarn, yarn, crochet. Anybody? I think I'm at a good volume now.
Good.
It's working.
Holy
I found the
smokes.
settings. All right, I will send it back over to Jayda.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
I love this.
I
This
am
is
happy
fantastic.
to hear that.
Okay, so now I've worked 6 evenly spaced across the bottom. That tells me that I've got the last one to work into the bottom of what was the chain 3 that began row 1 or the bottom of the double crochet that's sitting here. And I'm skipping 3. So I skip 3 because I'm matching what I did up here at the top. I skipped 3 in between my first 2 shells. So I got to make sure there's 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm finding that first foundation chain, and I'm working 3 double crochet into it to finish the 7th shell across the bottom. Then I chain 2 for corner number 4, and I work 3 double crochet into the same place, and then I am just mirroring what I did up the first side to go up here. So I know I'm looking for the even rows. I skip row 1, row 2, row 4, row 6, row 8, and row 10. All get a shell at the end of them. And easy peasy. If I get lost, I just look across. There's nothing here. This is the actual bottom. So I want to be on the end of this one.
Big thank you to Nico for the membership gift.
Nico with the gift. Thank you, Nico. Skip a row, 3 double crochet into the edge of the next one. as Jeannie crochets a lot of doilies. Holy smokes.
I'll keep dropping my mic volume until I get it right.
Well, remember, some people are going to have headphones in, some people are watching on a television, some people are just watching on their phone or on a tablet.
That is true.
So the sound is going to vary for everybody. But I'm just glad you can all hear them. There we go. That is the last of my shell stitch running across the edge. I'm going to find the top of the standing double crochet that I started the row with, or if it's a chain 3, that too. Join with a slip stitch, and I'm going to fasten off and weave in my tails. Cherry B, a member for 37 months at Merino. Thank you, Cherry. Afternoon, Ms. J and General G. Afternoon, Cherry. Glad you could make it.
Thanks for the feedback, everyone. I will keep messing with the volume till I get it right.
I'm just weaving in my tails now. And I am just so smitten with these little squares. There's just something so satisfying about taking something that was a sampler or an experiment and then turning it into a useful little building block, which is exactly what we're doing here. All right. Just doubling back, making sure all of my little crochet ends or my yarn ends are hidden. There we go. Now I'm going to flip it over and do what I like to do, pull out my corners, just do a little bit of hand blocking. And like I said, now I know that the stitch counts match all of the other squares. So even if they are slightly out of sync size-wise, just because of the kind of yarn I was using or my tension or whatever, I know that they will all line up when it comes time to join them all together. Or I can just block them if I want to a little more into the right shape before joining, or just wait till the whole project's put together and block the whole thing. So this, oh my gosh, just falling in love fast, fast, fast. So this is what I mean by adding a border to your squares if you want to use them all in a larger project. If you've got like small projects in mind that only use a couple squares, like if you're making a little purse or maybe you're just making hot pads or something, then the border can be really anything you want, and you can make it anything you need it to be, so long as it matches any other squares you want for the project. If it's just a pot holder, you really only need one, or like a dishcloth, you only need one. So you can go add any kind of border you want to it, and you don't have to worry as much about counts if you're not terribly, worried about it being perfectly square. But if you do want to take your sample work and make it all unified so that you can join it together into a larger project, adding the border is a great thing. Make sure that all of your samples wind up being roughly the same size so that you can create a border that cheats or works for all of them. One of the reasons that I like the granny shell stitch border is because there is something flexible in that shell stitch. You can jam 3 stitches into the same stitch, and it can be tight if it needs to, or it can fan out if it needs to. So just to recap, there are only 20 stitches across the top of my graphs, but technically we've put 21 stitches across the top because there are 7 sets of 3 double crochets per shell. So 21 stitches plus the chain 2 in the corner. Now we've got 11 rows running down the edge. If you were to turn those double crochet stitches into single crochets, 11 rows of double crochet equals technically 22 single crochet worked up the side. I've got 21 double crochet worked down the side. So I've got 21 worked across the top, 21 worked across the side. They are separated into groups of 3. So there's a little bit of this flexibility happening. So I've technically got one less shell or one less stitch than I need down the side, because I would technically have needed 22 if I was single crocheting. And I've got one more than I need across the top because I've got only 20 stitches here. And then my little corners to sort of square things off. And because I'm using that somewhat flexible stitch, it can squeeze together if necessary. It can fan out if necessary. And of course, blocking your squares makes all the difference. But that is how we can turn our Fair Isle style samplers, 20 stitches by 11 rows, into a perfectly little square, granny square. This will allow it to size up or down to meet up with its neighbors. You can now attach a whole whack load of them together into a bigger project. This makes them very joinable. Now you can stitch them together, you can sew them together, you can do a new join as you go. You can even make them bigger. That's a granny shell stitch. So adding additional rows to that to make it somewhat bigger if you wanted to is easy. You just continue to work the same granny shell stitch. So shell, chain 2, shell in the corner, and then in between each set of shells, 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, etc. You could also add a row of single crochet solid all the way around, or double crochet, or whatever. But now, because you've made an even number of stitches as the base, the sky's the limit. This is now a working square. And I've got 3 of them so far. Whee! Mystery Stitches, how are we doing for time?
We are at 51 minutes. I would just like to chime in and say I love the squares with the border. They look amazing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And you know what they remind me of?
What?
Stamps.
Stamps!
They have the little ripple of a stamp, like an old-fashioned stamp.
Oh my gosh, honey.
Super cute.
You're so right. It does look like stamps.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
the ideas are flowing.
We've got about 10 minutes left here in today's live stream, so I'm just going to get started on my...
We had a couple of questions.
Yes, let's answer some questions.
Here's
while
a
I
quick
crochet.
one from, it looks like, here it is, from Christine.
Christine.
What are your favorite type of hooks? Do you use dots?
What are my favorite types of hooks? A question from Christine. I don't know dots. I have got 3 different kinds of crochet hooks, actually 4 in my collection, generally speaking. I have aluminum crochet hooks. I've got Susan Bates, I've got Boy, I've got Arrow. Those are my aluminum crochet hooks, so they're just plain hooks without any ergonomic handle. I've got Clovers, which are these ones that I use all the time. It's an aluminum hook with a rubber handle. I love these. These are the Clover Amour. I absolutely love these hooks. They're my favorite. I have wooden hooks. I've got bamboo hooks. I've got the Knit Picks rainbow wood hooks. You've seen me use those on occasion. They're really nice. They're slender. I love wooden hooks because they're already warm when you pick them up. They're not like cold like an aluminum hook. I had a set of tulips, but because I'm a knife grip and not a pencil grip, I gave them to my mother-in-law, who is a pencil grip, and she absolutely adores them. And the others, I've got some plastic hooks in my collection, and I've got, I think that's it. The aluminum, the wood, the ergonomic ones, and some plastic ones, which I think are mostly Suzanne Bates. They're the crystal hook collection, the plastic ones. They're lightweight and stuff. So those are generally the hooks that I have. I use these ones the most, the Clovers, because I find them the most comfortable. I was having a conversation about furls the other day with Dee. Dee's got some new furls. She was sort of kind of talking about how the company has changed a little bit in the last year. I've never had furls. I've actually not even looked into them really yet. I keep meaning to, but I keep not getting around to it. So yeah, as I come up on, oh, and I also have a couple of homemade hooks from my father-in-law. So a couple of hooks that he carved for me, which I use on occasion, and they're wooden too. So, I love hooks. I just, I never think to kind of go looking for them. Probably because I've got a tremendously large collection as it is already. I'm gonna work in another little shells. I'm going to try and get this border on here before we finish today. Mystery Stitches, were there any other questions?
Nothing that's recent.
All right.
If anyone has any questions about today's project or the Fair Isle style counter blanket in general, share them, and we'll see how many we can get to.
Or adding borders to things. I hope that I did my best to explain kind of the best way to experiment or to figure out how to put a border on something like a sampler like this. I'm excited about making these feel more like a proper granny square. Because graph work is really neat, and I love granny squares that have different sort of like images and stuff associated with them. And now I feel like we can, we can have these cute little joinable granny squares that are nice and solid, so that makes for a nice blanket, that are really decorative and image heavy, but they don't require like a ton of appliques and extra sewing and stuff.
We have a question from Yvonne. This is about the the large mitered granny we did a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Can I just continue making one large blanket?
Yes. So the thing with the mitered granny squares is that you have two choices for enlarging them. You can continue the mitered or the corner crochet part of the pattern where you're just working back and forth across the corner, so back and forth and back and forth, so you can continue the mitered part of the pattern, or you can finish the mitered part of the pattern, square it up by doing that row where you go all the way around, and then continue with that granny square shell stitch square. So making you've stopped making it cornered and you're making it now more square. Now that'll do a couple things. It will make the actual mitered part of the square shrink. It'll look smaller, so the more you create a square border on that, the more the focal point will be that sort of cornered part. Or if you continue with the cornered part, that little square that started in the bottom corner will appear to shrink. It'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, but you'll have this very obvious growing corner thing. So you've got two options there. Either way, you can continue to make it a single big square. And they both look pretty cool. It just depends on the aesthetic you're going for.
We have a couple of suggestions here from Krista. Can you do a Jack Skeleton graph for Halloween?
Jack Skeleton graph, yes.
For the I think what she means is for the Fair Isle style.
That
like
is
the face.
Cool.
And then Kathy added to that, or a doll or anything like that.
A little person.
And then Elish or Eli Shepherd is suggesting something for a baptism.
A baptism?
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, we'd have to see some images, but those are all great suggestions.
I've got a cute little bassinet. I know that we did a bassinet or a baby buggy, depending on how you want it to look. We did that because there was a bunch of people asking for something for the new baby. And I was trying to think of something that said new baby, but was like kind of a clear image. And I came up with that. So that's the little bassinet, or I've got the other one here with its feet. Where's that one? I have so many of them now. Search. Here it is. So you can do it in all one color, and I feel like that looks like a little bassinet or a baby buggy. And then, or you can do it in multiple colors. So you can like put feet on it, like it's got little wheels or just little feet, and then like make the hood a little different color. I think that's really cute. That one might suit. That one's already up in our Etsy shop. So if you're looking for something quickly, then that's there. But I will definitely give all of those ideas some time on the drawing board, as it said. Because I love that. I love all these suggestions. They're so much fun.
We seem to be having some website issues, so I'm going to check on that after the live stream. Okay. And I should be able to fix that up and make sure that the app is working again. I think it has to do with the website.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we will definitely check on that. Everybody's constantly updating stuff, and if you're not on top of it, you can get left behind. All right, well, I am going to finish up my border here on my fourth square while we all kind of just...
We want to remind everyone our three or more sales on
Yes, Mr. Stitches is correct. We are having a 3 or more sale in our Etsy shop all this month. So until actually July the 30th. If you buy 3 or more of anything in our Etsy shop, you'll get 15% off your entire order. So if you do want to pick up a handful of things, including some of our Fair Isle style plus patterns, then that's a nice little summary deal. And we thank you very much if you do, because it certainly helps us out here. And I apologize for not actually paying closer attention to the chat today. Thank goodness Mr. InStitches is here to do that for me. I've really been paying attention to the skip some stitches, skip some rows, work in my double crochets. So oh yes, thank you, Cherry. Don't forget the poll, says Cherry. Mr.
Yes,
Stitches.
I will end the poll. I'll give it another minute for those that would like to take part.
Yes, if you're just kind of arriving. Hi,
also,
welcome.
22 Junie's been asking all about these squares and Fair Isle style. So to find our playlist, you just need to go to you can just search Fair Isle style calendar blanket Jayda and Stitches anywhere, and it should pop up. And also we have a plate. Does the Etsy shop have a what's it called?
A special section?
Yeah, like a special section.
Yes, it does. It is a graph section. It's the section called graphs, and all of our Fair Isle style graphs, including the ones for the blanket this year, plus all the plus patterns, they are all in the graph section. And you can see, if you pop into the shop on a computer, the shop sections all sit on the left-hand side of your screen. And if you are on a phone or a tablet, I think the sections are like, you sort of scroll down and it'll show you shop sections. It's pretty clear.
The poll.
Great. Let's find out what that poll had to say. Kind of loving this. This is so much fun. How much do you crochet in the summer? All day, every day. 58%. Well, hello everybody. That is not what I expected. How cool. Not much, a little, 22%. Just my work in progresses, 15%. Not at all, 2%. Yes, for those of us who occasionally lose our crojo in the summer, that was me once upon a time, then there's maybe not a lot of crocheting happening, but I'm really surprised to see so many of you say all day, every day. That's awesome. I do love long evenings with lengthened daylight that I can sort of sit and do some extra stitching in. That is just so enjoyable. It's also nice to sit and crochet outside when it's not too hot. I love doing that.
Some of our viewers here are mentioning that they are thankful that we put them on to Len's Mills.
Yay!
They are a fantastic crafting supply store, and we love them, and they ship to the US too without any trouble. So.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yes,
Yeah.
I will definitely be ordering from them again. I previously had only been there in person once or twice and enjoyed the process, but like I said in the video, it was kind of dark. But tried ordering from them online, and it arrived promptly. It arrived well packaged. It was exactly what I ordered, which is really nice. And everything's in really good shape. So I really enjoyed it. So I will be putting in a larger order next time. This was sort of a preliminary order. The next one will be much larger. Holy smokes, I've got 4 bordered squares now. I see a storybook Afghan starting. Don't you? I do. I can see it. I can see it starting. There's a story happening here. Oh my gosh, this is so darn cute. Well, I didn't expect that this year when we started our Fair Isle style calendar blanket. I didn't expect to be making 2 blankets. But here we are. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm loving this. So definitely look for more fun graph patterns to come. We will be designing them as fast as we can. You guys with your amazing suggestions, I love it. We've got another one coming for sure this month. It's a surprise, and if you are a Silk or Vicuña member, it will also be one of your free perks over on our membership website. Mr. InStitches is going to make sure that our website is functioning properly today, and we will maybe get some updates in there at the same time. Otherwise, they will be coming to the shop in the graph section, our Etsy shop. We always post a little kind of like community post about them when we put them up, just in case that's where you kind of see stuff from us first. But yeah, and you'll probably see them show up behind me. I like to kind of, whenever I get one made, I sometimes like to have it in the craft room with me, because I get a kick out of staring at it. But now that I'm adding the borders, I'll probably just be making these little samplers and adding borders to it right away. I can't stop. Guess what I'm going to be doing all afternoon. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on a Monday. I hope this was helpful. I hope maybe it's inspired you to try some of these graphs if you were kind of putting it off or you were a little intimidated. It is not hard. Start with the simple ones that are pure mirror image. Those are basically all of the ones we've been doing this year in the calendar blanket. Give them a try. Don't be afraid. Color work is a lot of fun. And if you only commit to 20 stitches by 11 rows, it's not big. Just do the graph once just to give it a go and try it. You can add a border now, and you've got an absolutely adorable little granny square. And if you really like one of the pictures that we've done, like say the tulip, this was the April graph for the Fair Isle style blanket. You can make a whole bunch in different pretty little tulip colors and add a unifying border and stitch them together and have a pretty little garden blanket. The opportunities are endless. So I hope if you've had a little bit of a Crojo downturn, maybe this will help perk it back up. Nothing like a little bit of Crojo perkage. That sounds weird, but I'm going to go with it. Anyway, everybody, I hope you had fun. We will see you Friday. We've got a new tutorial coming for you on Friday. Hopefully, we'll be able to publish on time this week. It's just been crazy between software glitches and YouTube's processing times and everything. But hopefully we'll be on time. That'll be 11 o'clock Eastern for Friday for our new tutorial. And we will see you back here for that. So have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay crafty. Mr. InStitches, do you have anything you want to add?
Just thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, see you Friday, everybody.